Good morning and welcome to Flat Earth United. Joining me this morning is Helena Phoenix. How you doing, Helena?
I'm doing really well, thank you, Nathan. Thanks for inviting me to join you on your show here. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Early in the morning for me, so unfortunately we may be slightly interrupted by my Sprog who's running around, but hopefully not. She's normally pretty well behaved. So, can you start us first of all? I know we had a little chat before we started the show about what we talk about, but I like to start off my shows by asking a primary question to people who are into the flat Earth scene, which is, how did you find out that the Earth is flat?
Oh, oh. Okay, so if anyone's familiar with my work, I've been a talk show host on an alternative radio station called Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And I was invited to join in 2012. It was a makeshift radio station. They were pretty new. I think they started in 2011. The servers came out of Kentucky, so the station owner was in Kentucky. And one day, the station owner found one of my music videos on YouTube, which is just so out of the blue, and invited me to be a host on American radio. As you can tell by my accent, I'm in Australia. And I responded, you get all kinds of messages on YouTube. I responded by, yeah, sure, what do I need? And he said, Skype and a microphone. I'll get you a producer. Within a week, I had a producer from New York. His name was Tones. It all happened very smoothly. Basically, they said to me, you can talk about whatever you want. He said, I've seen your material on YouTube, and it wasn't much. I probably had about 40 subscribers. And it was just, I was given complete trust, which was just extraordinary. Just complete trust to do my own show and speak about whatever I wanted. I thought this was amazing. Some beautiful coincidences. 2 years within being at the station, so started in 2012. Sorry, 3 years. So 2015, there was a character on Freedom Slips Revolution Radio called Hijacker, and was that? I just saw you talk. Were you asking me something, Nathan? No, okay, no worries. And his name was Hijacker, and he was doing a show on Flat Earth. So this was early 2015. Now, Hijacker had a very famous reputation for being very articulate, but just he had a. We all used to joke about Hijacker because he just sounded crazy, but we all loved him. And then, because he was very conspiratorial, very anti-government, he had foresight as to things that were going to happen, that type of character. But he was great, very, very intelligent. And out of the blue, he did the show on Flat Earth. Now, by the way, if anyone wants the link, this particular show has got 30, I think about 38,000 views, either 38,000 or 47,000, I'm not sure. Anyone wants to look it up, it's The Grey Zone, something like The Grey Zone Flat Earth. So I listened to this show, and as soon as I heard Hijacker even mention it, something clicked with me immediately. I wasn't one of those people that thought, oh, this sounds really crazy. It clicked with me immediately, and I had to explore it more. I had to, and I've explained this to people when Morpheus in the Matrix says that splinter in your mind. I always consider that little splinter in my mind, in our minds, was that glow. So I thought this needs further.
You're the first to say that. Most people who I've interviewed so far haven't said that. That's my story. Similar in not in the respect of obviously the videographer that you came across, but the splinter in your mind, the sort of eureka moment of going, you know what? That's exactly what I've observed. That's exactly how I see things. That's my experience of life, as opposed to maybe this needs a little bit more. Sorry, there's a plane going over. Maybe this needs a little bit more looking into. Wasn't what I thought, although obviously I've then looked into it a huge amount. But yeah, similar story to you. It's that very well put, the splinter in your mind.
Yeah, and look, I've got to say, I do come up with little catchphrases and little ideas, creative ideas that are mine. I haven't taken them from anybody, and my conclusions. So that's definitely one that stuck out to use that splinter in the mind allegory. So I think, like I said, this particular video has got 38 or 47,000 views. It got that big. It got that many viewers. It's just Hijacker. So took further investigation, and when I looked further into it, lo and behold, I find Matthew Powland, and thought he was extraordinary. So this is back in 2015, and I reached out to Matthew, and I'm like, I've got to get him on the radio. I've got to get him interviewed, thinking, well, this is again my naivety, not realizing that the world's not going to be particularly ready, because once people at the station realized that I was part of bringing even Matthew on, because he did end up getting an interview with Mr. Rowe, who I introduced Matthew to, which is a host at Revolution Radio, who's in, excuse me, San Diego. So I introduced those two because I'm quite connected. So I'm actually able, and it's strange because I'm just this odd woman in Australia that managed to have a lot of contacts. And I think how that happened was I was getting a lot of respect in the community. So I was getting a lot of trust. And it's been 5 years and I still have that trust. So I'm really proud of that. So we got Matthew and
show about it.
Yep, go ahead.
Time, though, before you went into sort of getting Hijacker onto your show, what was the actual show about before that?
Well, Hijacker, I should have clarified, had his own show. So he was a host at the station that did a flat Earth show, and he was almost screaming, Nathan, like, guys, you'd not believe what I found out. And he was talking about flight paths and the lot of it. But no, he was already a host. It was another host by the name of Mr. Rowe that I introduced Matthew Powland to, if that was your question.
I see. Well, yeah, yes and no. That answered one part of the question. The bit was kind of like, what were you doing? What was your topic? What were you actually discussing?
Oh, okay. When I was a host at that time?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, I wasn't discussing Flat Earth before Hijacker because I didn't know.
No.
Are you asking me
what sort of topics were you covering?
Oh, okay. I was doing all sorts of things. In fact, I was going to bring this up a little later on, but I had an eyewitness who lived with Till Swan, who is actually 9 out of 10 people know who Till Swan is. She's quite a famous spiritual guru on the internet. She's got a massive following, and her whole story, she claims to have been satanically ritually abused as a child, which is the reason why she's gained so much popularity. Plus she's an extraordinary, she's a very beautiful woman. So she's used that, her narcissism, and this fake story about being satanically ritually abused as a child to gain an enormous following. Now, it turned out that she's actually a complete liar and charlatan, and I interviewed an eyewitness that lived with her. So I was doing all sorts of work, interviewing all sorts of people, also just doing shows by myself, talking about things that I was really passionate about, being an empath in a world of psychopaths and how to survive that instead of going to crawl under a rock like a lot of empaths do. They get afraid to sort of even leave their house because it's a cruel world, basically, kind of thing. So I had a lot to talk about. I had a lot of material, and I did a lot of interviews. So that's where I was. But after Hijacker and after Matt Palin was on the show with Mr. Rowe, when people started finding out that I was at the station, that I was on the flat Earth path, I was losing some friends, and I thought, oh, well, this is strange. Why is this? I realized most of my friends were very much into aliens and liked the ball. They liked the romanticism of the ball, and don't you dare touch my ball.
That sounds about right.
Sorry, that's funny. Yeah, it sounds about right. And they got really sensitive about their ball. So but at the same time, I was finding that there was other people at the station who were like, we had this little code with one another. It's like, do you think it's flat? It's like, yeah, I do. What about you? It's like, yeah, I think it is. So we kind of started a whole little community, even though we've all been friends for years. And it turned out that the topic of flat Earth got banned from the station. So it gained a lot of traction, Nathan. A lot of people started talking about it, and it got banned. The station owner was getting a lot of flack for it. You can imagine the controversy, so it got banned from the station. And at that time, I thought I need a little bit of a break from radio because I had to really question my reality. I, I can't talk about the spinning, anything that's got to do with cosmology in the old way like I used to. So what am I going to do? I can't talk about that. So I took a big break. I took a break for over a year. And yeah, so where else would you like to go? What else would you like to know? There's more, don't you? Hey,
Well,
baby.
again, I just see connections between things that fascinated me between or before my journey to flat Earth. It's similar to you. So I was looking at psychopaths and narcissism, and that's the one of the main topics I want to kind of talk about with you is where you see links between the deception with heliocentrism and psychopathy or narcissism, as you phrase it. So that's something that I really want to get into. But by the same token, you just said something fascinating, which was flat Earth got banned, which again I've literally in the last couple of weeks been saying I just don't think we are suffering any sort of censorship in flat Earth, and then you say something like that and it really pricks my ears up. So maybe you can tell us a bit about that and how that came to pass.
Okay, so do you want to cover the narcissism side or that other? Which one do you want to cover?
If we start with flat Earth getting banned, and maybe give a bit more meat to that, because that's a fascinating thing to hear.
Okay, so here I am in an alternative radio station that was really good, actually. We did report on things before that happened. Nighthawk was one of the first radio stations covering Sandy Hook, with a lot of evidence about the situation there. He was at the forefront. He had his finger on the pulse. It got banned because people were getting really emotional, Nathan. And it wasn't really the flat earthers that were getting very emotional. It was the people that were very holding on tightly to their usual cosmology of what we were taught. And what amazed a lot of us that were deviating from that was these are the same people, Nathan, that say that everything's a lie. Everything. The government lies to you. Everything's a lie. Except that. And that's what I had issue with. And that's what I'd say to them live on air sometimes. So you think they're lying to you about everything but that. Does that make sense to you? So, yeah, I got nudged out a little bit, and that's okay. That's fine. Like I still love these people, so I still consider them friends of mine. I'm just waiting for them to play catch up. So yeah, it got banned. People getting very emotional. They don't want to think that they're aliens. They don't want to think
that's what I was about to come to.
When they die, they don't.
Maybe they'll never be able to give it up on account of the fact that their conspiracy revolves around, in the most literal way, the Earth being round. So if you've got people who are into aliens coming from planets that are just lights in the sky to us as flat earthers, that doesn't really stack up. So it might not be that they can let go of their conspiracy because of it revolving around heliocentricity.
Yeah, it really messed with their narrative, their narrative. And there's someone I really respect in a sense where, and a lot of them had books as well, Nathan. So you're affecting their narrative, which includes their books. So they've got something to sell. But someone like Santos Bonacci, are you familiar with his work?
Yeah, for sure. Now on the flat Earth.
Yeah, and he's someone that walk with his tail between his legs and go, okay, I could have gotten some things wrong. Forgive me. And this is now where it is. And he gracefully admitted that. And so there was this issue that some people might have had where they had to change the narrative of something that they were deeply steeped in a certain and trafficked in work that's not congruent now with a flat earth. Even, and I've got to tell you, and this was live, so this isn't a private conversation. I heard Vinnie Eastwood, and I know Vinnie Eastwood, there's a lot of people who know who Vinnie Eastwood is. I'm assuming you do too.
Yeah,
He
I know.
said live on air, he said, I've looked into flat earth. It seems very viable to me, but it's not radio viable for me. Let's move on. So he virtually admitted that, yeah, it's incredibly possible. In fact, I think I believe it, but I'm not going there. And he said it in his cheeky Vinnie Eastwood kind of way. I thought that's disappointing. But I heard him say that 2 years ago. Now, if I heard him say that, I'm a little bit more open-minded. I'm not as judgmental as to what I think people should be talking about. If people feel it, believe it, know it, and they don't want to talk about it, so be it. I'm not going to be angry at them for not discussing flat earth. Maybe 2 years ago, but not now.
He's covered topics like narcissism. I think he interviewed Thomas Sheridan again several years ago before I was watching Flat Earth shows. That's how I know about him, because of his interaction with people on the subject of psychopathy. But yeah, it's nice to hear that someone like that, because again, with Santos, I remember that happening when he turned, and it made a huge difference because he's in this arena. And as you say, a lot of his theories were tied to it being a ball, and he had to start transposing those ideas across. I mean, now he says it works better on a flat earth.
Oh, beautiful girl. Yeah, and he did it gracefully, and he was able to do it too. Eleanor, what a cutie. And he was able to do it too. The thing is, a lot of people who liked Santos Bernacci also turned vehemently on him and were quite angry at Santos. Santos got a funny approach. I've partied with Santos. I was fortunate enough to go to his house for his 50th birthday, I think it was. And it was beautiful, great turnout of people. They had Spanish dances, Spanish music. I'm Spanish, so I was right at home. Beautiful homemade vegan food, great people. It was an amazing party. And, you know, he's got a certain style and approach that's, I see some flaws in it, but I think he's marching to the beat of his heart, and that's great. But when it comes to following people, my thing is, this is why people never have to worry about shills. No one should ever really be following anybody, one person in particular. For me personally, it's about educating oneself by sort of picking many fruits from many trees to obtain your picture, as opposed to choosing a character that you look up to when their word is now gospel. So so that's kind of where I am.
Totally agree. It's you pick and choose exactly the bits of information you like. I think Tiger Dan said it a couple of years ago. You chew the meat and spit out the bones.
Yeah. And a lot of people screaming out worried about all the shilling stuff in Flat Earth. I feel like I need to do a video and just say, guys, just relax. Just trust us. We're all big boys and girls. We're going to be okay. It's okay. Just calm down. I feel like doing something like that. And I also just want to mention too, as far as personalities in the Flat Earth go, this is up for anybody. Anyone that wants to come on the scene and do a video and make sense. Anyone, it's up for anyone. There are no rules. Anyone can do it. So people are worried about sort of celebrityism happening. It's like, you've got how many? 4,000 subscribers. That's pretty good. That's actually great. But you're putting the work in. You're putting your neck on the line. You're putting your face out there. You're putting yourself out there. You're not stopping anyone else from doing it. That's what's so beautiful. Anyone can do it if they want to.
So, from flat Earth to narcissism, Tell us a little bit about your journey into psychopathy. I mean, at the end, we'll probably link this back to Flat Earth. And I know before the show we said pretty much this is all connected anyway. But if you can start us off with just pre-Flat Earth, what you were talking about and how you were talking about it.
Okay. All right. Let's just put it this way. As someone who's a flat earther can still be a psychopath, because I can tell you, I know one in my real life. Psychotic. And he was psychotic before he knew, and he's also still psychotic after he knew. But that's another topic. Psychopathy has always been, well, narcissism, I didn't even know narcissism. It had a term, but I grew up in a very narcissistic family, extremely narcissistic family. There was abuse in my family. Thank God there was no sexual abuse, but I was around, and I come from a very big family, very selfish, narcissistic family. I spent a lot of time by myself as a child, even though I was the youngest of many children, and I discovered music and creating music. So I kind of fell into my own little world of creating music to sort of get away from that. I went on to study psychology at university so I could just understand these people better. Still didn't get any answers. As I was doing more work on the radio, I started meeting authors. I started meeting great thinkers, philosophers, and people that are on the world stage talking about narcissism. And then I was able to link the two. This is what I was a victim of, narcissistic abuse. So narcissism, it's unless you got any specific, have you yourself, Nathan, been a victim of narcissist types in your life?
Yeah, well, once that was like most people, the way I started to look into it, trying to figure out what a particular individual was. And then you look down probably the same routes as you and find no answers. And then you come across psychopathy or narcissism and go, right, the penny drops. This is what this person is. And then you go along that journey and realize that I think depending on where in the world, but as a sort of world average, I think it's about 5% or 1 in 20 people are narcissists, basically. So then you start to extrapolate that out into your everyday life and the people that you know. Obviously, without having an MFRI machine, I'm going to get this qualifier in really early. You can't just label somebody a psychopath. Yes, there's the DSM. You can go through it. You can actually analyze somebody if you are a doctor with lots and lots and lots of analytical questions, or you can scan them with an MFRI machine and actually scan their brain waves, again, based on their reactions to certain images. So it's unfair to label people narcissists, certainly publicly. However, the whole point in researching this topic is to be able to label somebody exactly that when you don't know what they are or why they're doing what they're doing, why they perpetually lie, things of that nature. But without stealing your thunder too much, tell us about the things that you discovered about that particular type of individual.
Well, one, you pretty much have to be up close and personal with a narcissist to really experience it, or you've heard eyewitness testimony from someone else who's gone through it. But up close and personal, and there's no reason. The thing is with narcissists, you can't shake a narcissist's hand. They shake your hand and they say, "Hi, I'm so and so. I'm a narcissist." Usually, they come across like sometimes very charming, most times very charming, and normal, shall we say, normal. But you get closer to them and you realize that they will put themselves first. They will throw you under a bus. They have no empathy or compassion if you're hurt or hurting, or there's just a lot of very odd behavior. And when you think about it, so this is the bottom of the pyramid here. So this is just people in society. If you go further up the pyramid, in order to, I guess, with the way the system is run by, we call them psychopaths. Let's face it, there is a lot of issues at the top of this pyramid. I would say that the people reflect their governments. We in Australia, I'm sure in the US and the UK, Western countries, we have pandemic problems with mental illness, antidepressants, and just your general mental illness. There's not probably every second. I'm a hairdresser. I'm a hairstylist and a beauty therapist. I speak to a lot of women, and it really blows my mind the amount of women that admit to me how depressed they are and how they've got mental issues and they take tablets for them. For these issues. Now, I'm not saying I was immune to these issues. I used to have issues when I was under serious programming, I would say, that we're all subject to from children through TV and all that stuff. I was fortunate enough to break my programming and sort of tap in more into my potential and grow as a person, as a woman, as a person. And a lot of that's evident in the work that I've done on the radio. But this, it seems to be in society is like you either got your victim and your perpetrator. Your narcissist, your victims, your narcissists. It's like that seems to be everywhere in society. It's okay, we've got a big problem here. And I've tried to tie in, okay, so then you've got this flat earth situation. Again, it doesn't mean because someone knows about flat earth, they're suddenly, a wonderful person. It doesn't work like that. But I think a lot of the issues that stem in society, and I said this last night, is because we don't know the true nature of reality, let alone the true nature of ourselves and our true potentials. And for me personally, I think life is a test. You get tested. If you either fail the test or you pass the test. Some of us are passing the test. Many are failing. But it's a test. But that's if you have any other questions relating to I don't really know how to tie in narcissism to the flat earth. There's certainly a lot of even if I see a video on someone, I can't really tell if they're a narcissist. Some people might just come across like they've got big egos, but they're really cool people. Like if you're cold, they'd put a jacket on you. Some people come across like they're really, really lovely and they wouldn't put a jacket on you if it came to that point. So I can't just see someone go, they're a narcissist. Even if they come across, they seem really vain. You have to really be around one to know.
Yeah, you have to see their full cycle of narcissistic abuse in order to spot them. And the main problem, at least well, not in my opinion, from what I've researched, is that when you actually encounter these people initially, the chances are, as you pointed out initially, they're really charming. They're actually lovely. In many ways, they'll try and replicate you as an individual and your values and qualities. They'll literally mirror your actions to become your friend. So to the most part, most people see narcissists as the nicest of people initially. It's only when you see them up close and personal, as you phrase it, you get to see the cycle of narcissistic abuse that will go through maybe a bit later. But that cycle is constant. It's never changing. It's always happening with any narcissist. They're always doing pretty much the same things, not in the same way, obviously, but that cycle of love bombing and gaslighting and devaluation is always the same.
Oh yeah, gaslighting is definitely one of their favorite tools. There's some things that happened to me, for instance, in my past, that if I was to bring it up, they would look at me like, what are you talking about? I mean, that level of gaslighting is extraordinary. And I've got to say, I'm really happy to hear that you've only ever come across one in your life. I sadly came across many, and I was attracting more as well, which got me onto this sort of path of self-responsibility. I had to learn as to why am I doing this? So that's when I started really looking inward, having a good look at myself in the mirror and going, well, taking full responsibility, getting out of the victim mentality as well. It was something, it's another thing too, I was talking about last night, huge victim mentality, even in the sovereign community. They still see I just did a show actually on the straw man. It was a really fun show. If I post it, I'm going to call Having Fun with Your Straw Man. I think I've got an angle with the straw man that I would like to explore and start doing videos on. But I do digress. Oh, goodness. Well, what was I saying? This straw man thing is such a top thing on my mind lately. But anyway, I do digress. I think Nathan's just gone for a moment, so I'll just roll until he comes back. You know what? I can't get over how good she is just sitting with you while you're doing this. She's
Oh, I don't
just
know.
chilling with you.
She's
Wow,
reasonably okay.
that's amazing.
It's when it's every time you want to get a question in. I mean, the other day she was started screaming her head off while I was doing one of the debate shows, and of course somebody came in and bombed the show with pornography at the wrong moment, just when I was being a bit.
Oh, are you serious, Nathan? What? While you had your child with them? What? Who was it?
I've no idea. It's what it's not something I'm new to. It's happened a few times. Obviously, running several of these shows. Not the,
Oh gosh, while you got your child. Well, if I find out who it is, yeah, you don't want me to know who it is, because like seriously, that's
I know it's one of them. But
yeah, that triggers me.
But it's the same as you were saying with the radio station. People get triggered really easily when it comes to the shape of the earth, and it makes them outraged to the point where they want to literally shut us down. And I always think about things like maybe not narcissism channels, but maybe like things like ghosts. You think, well, I don't believe in ghosts, but I'm not on the ghost channel saying this is an outrage. We must shut these people down. But when it comes
Yeah,
to flat Earth,
yeah,
that's definitely what we get.
yeah. That's a good example too. Like you don't go to someone's ghost channel and scream out that week after week after week you're there screaming out that ghosts aren't real. Like, are you crazy? Why don't you just go deal with what you think is real and leave us alone? Like, you look crazy. Uh, but yeah, with the topic of narcissism, like I was saying, I'm really happy to hear you've only had to deal with one. And oh, that's right. I was talking about victim consciousness and with the sovereign community, how there seems to be a lot of sort of I'm a victim of the system, and which is kind of true. And and then I mentioned about how I did my show tonight on having fun with the straw man, because I've come up with a few epiphanies and really creative little ideas about the straw man. I'm actually writing a song about the straw man. I've got the music for it. I just have to compose the lyrics and get it right. Actually, we can talk a little bit about
What do you mean by the
my
straw man?
music as
I mean,
well.
I know what a straw man is, but what do you mean? A literal physical straw man or a straw man argument?
Oh, when I use the term straw man, to me it's okay. So when I'm in my house, I'm me, my natural me. When I leave my house and get in my car, it's my straw man.
It's
So I
your
want to make sure I'm
capitalized
behaving
name.
my
Right, I see what you mean. Your capitalized name.
yeah yeah. So if I go punch someone in the face when I'm out, my straw man has punched someone in the face. My straw man, who's attached to me, is going to be in a lot of trouble. If I sign a contract when I'm out of the house, or when I'm in the house, when I'm out of the house, my straw man has signed the contract, which is also me. So there is a spiritual connection between you and your straw man, and people need to really understand what their straw man is, respect their straw man. Some people have a straw man that's like a huge, lingering, black, dark monster over them. They're drenched in debt. They have warrants for arrest, or warrants for monies owing on fines, for instance. So they've got this dark looming straw man. Some people have a straw man and they just want a really minimal straw man. They just want a little bit of land. They don't want to sign any more too many contracts. So I've got a whole kind of picture and a creative analogy of the straw man, and I actually would like to go a little bit more public with it. I played around with it tonight on my show, and it was triggering people in a really, really good way. I mean, we were even joking about going out with your straw man, and we're making jokes. It means people are starting to get what the straw man is. I can go further and go back, birth certificate and all that, but I'll leave that for another time. Right now, I'll just keep it like, because we can certainly go deeper another time about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the best analogy I ever got for your capitalized name, your straw man, was from an Irish chap I spoke to about a year ago. And he was explaining various aspects of this in terms of your interaction when you're contracting with people. And he said to me that it came up about a car. I was like, well, I'm not going to go into this free man. This was me saying to him, if you go into sort of the free man mentality, you just end up getting arrested. As much as it is true what you're saying in terms of how you could be with your car, but I just don't want to get arrested. I want minimal hassle. And his answer to that was, well, of course, you still have your straw man. It's like a coat. Sometimes you have to pick up your straw man coat and put it on in order to do things, the car being one of them. So you put on your straw man coat, you go and sign your contract, and then you take it back off again. Nice and simple.
Yeah, and I'm really getting that. Like in my home, I'm not a straw man. I don't want to bring a straw man in my house. And all this came to mind today because I was sitting in front of the fire during the day, and because I did this massive move, I had a huge suitcase. I opened this suitcase and it was just filled with paperwork. Like my straw man was looking right at me. And I'm like, okay, straw man, let's just look at what's under all this. And it turns out it was a whole bunch of like fines and uni fees and all sorts of stuff from years ago. And I was and I'm one of these people that I creatively, when I do things, I like to look at things creatively. And I'm a musician too, and I write music, so I kind of like to look at life through rose-colored glasses, if I can put it that way. That requires a little bit of thinking. So I'm ripping these pieces of paper up, looking at them, going, "Oh, what's this? A fine from 2000 and whatever." And it's like, and I started realizing, wow, my straw man back with them was a real idiot. I had to look back and realize how stupid I used to be with my decision making, my strawman decision making, mainly because I wasn't educated about even what a strawman was. I couldn't make the again, this is where it gets really deep, and I'm going to come up with a dialogue that's going to very succinctly explain all this to people, because if people come into the strawman information with these kind of whistleblower sovereign types, it's gonna scare them. I'd like to lighten it up a little bit, that our strawman can be our friend. We are stuck here. If there are people who know how to get out of the system they know how to do it. They got every code, everything ready to get out. Go. That's great. Some of us don't want to do that. I feel like I'm here and I want to somehow make this work for me. I don't want to go to. I've got a house, actually, I bought a house that's virtually off grid. It's completely rural. It's a 4-bedroom house on 3 acres. So I've got that. I can go there if I want to. But to me, that's an isolation I don't particularly want. For other people, that might be a really great idea. So there's a lot of angry sovereigns out there. Let me just say that I've met plenty of them. Again, the work with the people I've worked with the radio, there was a lot of people like this, and a lot of it didn't make any sense either. They talk about their sovereignty stuff, and it doesn't even make any sense. So
you spend quite a lot of time on Issa's channel, and to anybody who's not familiar with Flat Earth Court, obviously now we're talking in these terms, it makes a lot more sense why Issa's channel is called that. But you're obviously debating and discussing concepts like this with Issa all day long on his channel. Well, not all day long, but you know what I mean, frequently on his channel. So maybe you can tell us a bit about what you get up to with Issa on his channel and what you're discussing there.
Well, I've only been fortunate enough to join, maybe be on Flat Earth Court, maybe four or five times. We'll say 4 times. But I'm a listener of Flat Earth Court. I think there's a lot of really valuable nuggets of information that actually make sense. I've heard other sovereigns talk, if you want to call them that, and it sounds really convoluted, yet there's a lot of stuff that Issa says. It's very beautiful and simple to apply, and it's the beauty and the intricacy of it, but the simplicity that I think it puts people off. It's almost like people need to be angry. They rather a more angry approach at either getting out of the system. There is no getting out of the system. Where are you going to go?
Yeah, precisely. We are stuck with the system, and the system is inherent and full of lies. But I think personally, I don't know how you feel about Australia, but I love my country. I really like it here. That's not to say that I despise the lies about space and, you know, the fakery that all the space agencies come out with, and our cosmology that we're lied to about. You know, that doesn't change, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't like the trappings of Western society, because I do. And part of that is having a straw man, which has its advantages if you understand it. But there's a good chunk of people who have no clue what it means when they get a letter in capital letters. They just see that as their name. That's them. The letter's to them. It is, obviously, but I don't know. Can you explain to somebody, maybe if you can put yourself in the position of somebody who has absolutely no idea what we're talking about when we say the word straw man? Can you explain to them? I've given an analogy with the coat. Maybe you can do a better job than me.
Oh, yeah, well, first, to make it easier for people, it's probably best that we teach our children, for starters. Start getting them used to the idea. Look, if you're gonna go steal a car when you're 12 years old, you're gonna go steal a car. Your straw man's going to be in a lot of trouble at 12 years old. If we start explaining it to our children, and the moral implications of doing things wrong, basically our straw man's going to pay for it, which is us. So it's almost like the more we mature and when we mature and we don't still take property and we don't do harm, and we don't make decisions out of greed. For instance, signing contracts or getting little credit cards at a one of those, like we call it Myer or David Jones, one of those stores that you can buy really lovely things and you can get a store card, and because you're wanting things that you don't have. So your straw man's going to pay for that if you don't pay those credit card bills. So it's probably best we start teaching our children little things so they don't end up doing silly things that their straw man's going to pay for and signing stupid contracts at the age of 18 for things that they can't afford. So let's get to the children. Let's make it fun for them and explain to them that that's what life is. You know, they've got their natural self, the part that they can nurture, their beautiful, creative soul that no one can touch. That's theirs. But making smarter decisions in life so your straw man doesn't suffer, which hence you suffer when your straw man makes mistakes. And they will let you know letter after letter after letter. So if I was to explain it completely to a straw man, to a layman with a straw man, I would probably go, I'd formulate it a little bit better where I'd have to think about it a bit more because it's not new to me, but really thinking about it is new to me. Probably because of Flat Earth Court. It's really been provoking a lot of thinking about this stuff. And it's important that we think about this stuff because your straw man's with you when you get here, when you dock here, when the doctor says hello to you. And we need to respect that instead of having this dark, looming straw man over us by the time we're 30 because we're just steeped in debt and fines and all sorts of stuff from the past that comes to haunt us because we just weren't given the wisdom and the knowledge.
Talking of things haunting you, you mentioned about a student loan debt coming through. Did I hear that right? First, before I go on.
Yeah, no, that's all square. So it was just.
But you did have one at some stage, yeah?
Yes, I did, but that is definitely square. So the good thing about everything that I burnt today, which was reams and reams of paper, Nathan, was all of it square. Like I'm at peace with that part of my straw man. Thank goodness. I was kind of joking with myself, saying bye bye, straw man. Thank you for the lessons, but I don't need you anymore. The decisions I make now are with wisdom, and I don't have to worried. In fact, I'm looking forward to finding out more as to how I can benefit, again, without harming anybody or stealing anybody's property, or you know what I'm saying.
Sure. I mean, the reason I brought it up is because it's a more interesting one than ever when you know about the peer-reviewed indoctrination system that we call education, and knowing now
Sure.
that there's many a person that's in debt, that their straw man is screwed because of going into that education system. So they're literally getting you to pay for your own. Yes, that's right. Pay for your own indoctrination and leave you stranded in debt for a long time afterwards is a fascinating concept. It's akin to us buying iPads and phones for them to spy on us. You know, we're paying for our own servitude. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's right. And even there's two attitudes towards that. The most popular attitude is being angry at it, being angry that that's what they do and that's what they're doing. The beautiful flip side to that is that we do have control over that. We can, for instance, all my laptops, everything's got a piece of blue tack. Do you guys call it blue tack over there? Like a soft gooey, like a soft, like almost like chewing gum that you to stick things on the wall, like paper on the wall. Anyway, blue tack is what we call it here, and I've got that on every lens on my devices. I take precautions with everything I do without being paranoid about it. It's just like, okay, well, this is the way it is, and there's a solution. There's a solution for everything. And we need to be, I think people need to be more solution orientated than fear orientated. And even in the flat earth world right now, there is a lot of fear going on, and it seems to be directed at each other, not so much the solution angle. And I'm only interested in hanging with people who are solution orientated, who come at what's going on with some semblance of wisdom, also some knowledge. Anything outside of that is really kind of a waste of time for me. And also to kind of be around it to try to wake them up, I couldn't be bothered. I really just want to move and progress, keep tapping into my potential, and inspiring others and being inspired by others as well. I think inspiration is a huge factor as well. Keeping each other alive, keeping each other inspired is a huge. I was going to say responsibility, but no, I think just a very important aspect of life, because everything's so artificially intelligent now that I think to stay in touch with that sort of organic. Apparently, the word human isn't a great term to use, but natural person to keep that side of us and not so connected to technology, and keeping a realness and grow a garden, for goodness sake. So I've just grown some strawberries and some lettuce and some Chinese mint and some fruit trees. So
Well, that's very apt.
I'm a Libran.
A saying about growing food is very much linked to you saying it's not our responsibility maybe to wake up other people, because you said it right at the beginning of the show. It's about it being internal. It's about your self-discovery and your, you know, it's an internal thing as opposed to an external thing. Yes, I like making videos, therefore that's going to have a knock-on effect of telling others about the information I've discovered, and I'm sure the same is true for you. But ultimately speaking, it's about, for me, the power of one, the individual, our own understandings, and, you know, passing that on, like you say, is not our responsibility to do. You know, it's you, the viewer, if you're in that position. It's your responsibility to individually take on these understandings about things like straw man or your cosmology or anything really. It's down to the individual. It's not down to any leaders. So it ties us or brings us full circle to flat earth, and why there's probably very little to worry about when it comes to things like shills. It's just no need. Maybe we can start to round up here. If you can tell us a bit about your music and what you're going to be doing going forward into the future.
Oh, so on my YouTube channel, if anyone, I really don't promote my YouTube channel. It's been up for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, and I've just stayed in the corner of YouTube. I've just stayed there. I haven't tried to promote any of my stuff, but I've been discovered. I get emails, people wanting to collaborate with me, which was extraordinary because I had such a small subscriber count, but I managed to become a radio host from just because of my music on YouTube. That I still am. I've been offered to, like I said, to collaborate. People send me their music just from even the small subscribers, a little corner I was in on YouTube. I find that amazing. So my music, well, I am a solo artist, and I did have a producer 10 years ago. I had a producer, and he was a man in his 50s. He had 2 children. He lived in the suburbs, and he had a bit of money, and he thought, oh, I want to invest in you. And it's not like he was a music producer. He's like, I'm going to become a music producer because I want to take you under my wing, and I'm going to invest some money into you. So I went down that track for a little while, and it got very, very weird. His daughter, who was 21 years old at the time, was getting people to call me with death threats. She got a group of people to steal my car and snap my demo CDs just to give me a message. And I was actually quite, and they broke into my house and snapped some more. So they were snapping my demo CDs to let me know that that's what they were there for. And
That's
I
outrageous.
realized, yeah, very, very strange. But I realized it was the content of my music as well. So not only am I this woman who's just decided to look, I'm going to tap into my potential, and I'm going to find my genius with music and write music. And the things I was writing about were, I guess, stuff that we can't say, and we're in conversation, but I'd put it in songs. So it wasn't just silly stuff about sexual attraction and love songs. It was more like social observations and things that were going on. And it upset some people. It upset a lot of people, actually. So they thought, well, let's not let her go past go. Let's put our feet out and trip her up. And a lot of people got involved in trying to do that to me. So I'm like, paranoia started becoming very, very normal for me. And I was modeling too at the time, and I became a recluse. So here I am, this like stunning young woman who was deeply philosophical, putting it in my music, and became very reclusive and almost frightened to leave my house because I thought, well, I'm targeted. I'm being targeted. And death threats, for goodness sakes, broken, snapped demo CDs, breaking into my house, leaving me little messages. I'd get things in the mail like cards, like a deck of cards with the Joker saying "Game Over." Like there were people that were seriously wanting to, and I had the evidence. These were tangible things that were happening to me because of the music I was doing. I don't know who orchestrated it. I don't know. It was gang stalking. But I thought, I'm never doing music again. It got to that point. I didn't want anything to do with it, not going near it. And then I got over my fear years later because I started realizing, talking to people along the way, sort of other spiritual people going, oh, you were maybe perhaps tapping into something, and people sending out their agents for you, and they're not realizing their agents. Just weird, Nathan. It just got weird, and I didn't want anything to do with it. I'm like, it's just not worth it. And not to mention too, Nathan, like the sexual advances as well. People offering to help you, but you got to do this for them, and you got to do that for them. And I never did anything for anyone because at least I wasn't that silly, because I heard so many stories that you would do something sexual, for instance, but it was really just a scam to get girls to do things, and then they get promised and things. That's somewhere where I didn't get greedy. I wasn't doing music because I wanted money and silly fame. You can't get that in Australia anyway. Like, I wasn't that stupid. As I matured, I realized that my whole body of work, all of it, my music, my artwork, the radio, everything, is really just to sort of carry a torch, keep each other inspired, let other people know that they're not alone, that there are a lot of us that have suffered from abuse or, narcissistic abuse, and you're not alone. Sort of just to wake that little lion up in people, not be afraid. So I kind of became, I didn't mean to, I just fell into that. And I felt like, when you feel like, what's your purpose in life? I felt like I actually finally found what my purpose was. And it certainly wasn't just to sit in front of the TV my whole life.
Yeah, inspirational. Can you give us a plug to where you would send people if you were to promote yourself?
I just check out my YouTube channel. There's a lot of stuff there. It's only the tip of the iceberg. I've done hundreds of shows probably. I've only got maybe a handful of my shows there. There's a lot of my music. Anything that you see that's less than 5 minutes, you see the timer. If it's anything that less than 5 minutes, it's a song. It's one of my songs. Anything longer, it's probably one of my shows. Or me doing a little bit of a monologue. So you can check out my channel. It's Helena Phoenix, just on YouTube. So, yeah, I mean, my message really is just keep each other alive, keep each other inspired. It's the way things are going right now. It's like, let's not die, let's stay alive. And sadly, the way the flat Earth is moving at the moment, it's going to die out before it can really gain any traction, because it's just the nastiness, the craziness, the weirdness. It's just everyone. If everyone would just keep it cool, that'd be pretty good. That's why I like your approach too, Nathan. It's just nice and chilled. You're very respectful to your guests. You give everybody that you have on an opportunity to speak. You've got your beautiful child there. You're committed. You've got that inspirational factor about yourself that I notice and I pick up on about you.
Ditto is all I can say, because that's exactly why I had you on. So thank you very much for the kind words. I'm absolutely flattered. But I think with that, I'm going to say a massive thank you. Be sure to check out Helena Phoenix's YouTube channel. As she says, it's just the tip of the iceberg. But with that, I'll say a massive thank you to you as well, Helena. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thanks, Nathan.
And I'll also say a massive thank you to all of you who have joined us in the live audience on Flat Earth United. Be sure to click the subscribe button to keep up to date with videos and interviews from Nathan Oakley. And yeah, with that, I'll see you all in the next video.